This video is going to address stress fractures and how runners might approach nutrition to support their recovery after following a stress fracture. Here's the content that will be covered in this slideshow. Just beginning with an overview of stress fractures, these are bone structure injuries that occur when bones are unable to withstand repeated mechanical loads, often just submaximal forces over time, creating small cracks in the bone that can escalate to full on stress fractures, which cause a lot of local bone pain, tenderness, and structural fatigue that can prevent runners from participating in their sport. Obviously, the population here is going to be distance runners, so that's any distance from a 5K all the way to an ultra marathon. Stress fractures often occur in runners because, again, it's that repetitive force. 10% of sports injuries are stress fractures, but they make up 30% of running injuries. So, really, a problem that needs to be discussed, especially because a third of distance runners are having this injury more than once. So that recovery period is going to be critical, not just in terms of training load, but also nutrition, in order to avoid this pattern of stress fractures. There's a lot of risk factors. You can pause the video if you'd like to see them all, and feel free to spend a little more time with these slides. But we'll be focusing on the nutrition piece and just the vitamins and nutrients that are going to be most impactful during recovery to get athletes back to that maximum bone strength where they can really train at a high volume without worrying about their weakened skeleton. So the nutrients that are most impactful, number one is going to be calcium. This should come as no surprise. We hear this, drinking milk, but there is research that really supports it. In one study by young female cross-country runners, the high dairy, low-fat diet was associated with the highest levels of bone structure and bone mass density. So runners want to make sure that they're getting that calcium, whether it's from milk or other dairy products, a daily intake. When serum calcium levels fall below where they need to be below that adequate intake, the parathyroid hormone production increases, and this causes an imbalance of bone remodeling so that essentially your body does not have the tools that it needs to repair bones quickly enough as they are damaged from training, and this is what leads to stress fractures. So the number one thing is to get that calcium intake. Potassium is also an important nutrient that you want to make sure you're consuming. It reduces bone turnover along with increasing bone mass density and alkali load. And this is coming from, great sources, fruits and vegetables. And that's because they also include a variety of vitamins that we'll discuss that are all supporting bone mineralization. But you want to make sure you're getting those potassium levels. We know that's bananas, but it's a lot of other fruits and vegetables as well. And then vitamin D. We hear a lot about vitamin D, and it's no surprise that it also supports healthy bone, healthy bone remodeling, reducing that re-injury risk. Some of the other factors to consider is protein. Adequate protein intake has been associated with increased bone mass density. As I mentioned, vitamin C, magnesium, and vitamin K support bone mineralization, so making sure we're getting adequate amounts of those. And then just being aware that eating disorders, especially in runners, often there's a problem with a low energy intake and that energy imbalance. That's going to affect your skeleton and skeletal strength. So it's really important that as your training load increases during that recovery period and you get back up to the mileage that your body's used to, that you want to be at, that you're also increasing your intake of all of these vitamins and minerals that are supporting just that bone strength and that structure. Coffee, alcohol, and soda seem to have little to no impact on bone strength and bone mass density. However, most studies also don't have athletes that are consuming large quantities of these, so more research is needed to see if those larger quantities might have a negative impact. Again, feel free to pause the video just so you can see what studies have found these significant impacts of these vitamins and minerals that were discussed in the video that are supporting your recovery and your bone mass density and bone structural strength. Here are the articles that were referenced above, and feel free to do some further reading if you have any questions about this. Here's the contact information. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. Maybe go drink a glass of milk.